But that idea of demonstrating tangibly that we can move forward in a responsible, sustainable way, in a way that doesn't put significant extra burdens on ordinary citizens. And that's the nut that has been so important to try and crack in governments around the world. Because we get governments who try and do the right thing, are well-meaning, and are taking real leadership on climate change, only to be defeated in a populist wave that is so prevalent around the world right now. And getting that balance right, I mean, on a personal level, you know, whenever I show up at any event around the country these days, and I hear there are protesters outside, I have to ask them, okay, are they protesting because I'm doing too much on the environment, or are they protesting because I'm doing not enough on the environment? And sometimes I get groups doing the same things. And it's not to sort of say that the Goldilocks answer is the right answer, but it is to say that politically, if we are going to be able to continue to move forward, we have to figure out ways of doing enough to get us on the right path, while at the same time not doing so much that people decide that, you know, their jobs and putting food on the table and their kids' future in the short term is more important. And the voices on either side, actually for me, are extremely important and extremely helpful. It's helpful for me to be able to point out the opposite side of the argument when we're putting forward something that goes too far for some and not far enough for others. But I truly believe that we are in a moment where we can demonstrate that moving forward on protecting our environment, protecting more of nature, protecting more of our oceans, fighting against climate change, is not just not going to be an economic cost. I think it's becoming increasingly clear for everyone that you cannot have a plan for the future of our economy as a country, as a nation, if you don't also have a plan for environmental sustainability and environmental protection. And I am the last person to say that you know, we've got that balance exactly right. We're constantly working on trying to figure out new ways of doing this and doing that, and conferences like these are incredibly important to develop tools for governments like ours, but others around the world, to move forward in the right way. But leadership is about, yes, drawing people along, but not getting so far out in front that suddenly you're alone with no parade behind you. But it's also not staying in the middle of the group, milling around because you've got no forward momentum and no direction there. So it's getting that balance right of saying, this matters for now, this matters for tomorrow, this matters for future generations, and we can do things about it, and we can make it affordable for regular people. And getting that right is the key what we need to do.
One thing Canada did recently that was very interesting, and I'm wondering if there isn't something, Minister Wilkinson earlier was talking about how sometimes when you want to protect a certain area, workers from fisheries sector or the forestry sector will have a knee-jerk reaction. They'll feel that their jobs are at risk. And as part of our climate change plan, we have a target in Canada to eliminate coal electricity production by 2030. And one of the very interesting things you guys did is to put together this working group that...
Just Transition.
Yeah, Just Transition for workers and communities. So it wasn't just... And I read the report, and they went through those communities in Saskatchewan and New Brunswick and other places to talk with these people and say, okay, well, this is where we're going, and we want you to be part of this. And sometimes I'm wondering if we don't need a working group on Just Transition on oil and on forestry, because many of these sectors are and will be impacted by some of the transformation we're seeing.
No, there's no question about it. I mean, we committed to phase out coal-fired electricity generation by 2030, right across the country. We've already gone a long way towards that. But how you reassure people who are either in the industry or in communities reliant on thermal coal to feel comfortable about what they're going to do in the future, what their kids are going to do in the future. And that, quite frankly, one of the messages and the really comforting things that shouldn't have been surprising, but it was a bit surprising, was that the conversations with these communities that would be affected by phasing out coal were actually very, very positive. People understand where the world is going. They are just feeling real anxiety right now. I mean, take the situation in Alberta, where the oil and gas sector has been struggling tremendously over the past few years because of low prices, because our oil resources are prisoners to a single market in the United States. And the anxiety that people feel there is real. Now, it doesn't mean that Albertans do not care deeply about the environment, about the opportunities for their kids and their future generations. And even though there's a lot of fear and a lot of anger, we need to do a better job of reassuring them that the future has not just a place for them, but has a deep need for the innovative, forward-thinking, working, hard-working, and clear-minded approach that Albertans have always had on building a brighter future. And as you start to include people and empower them to be part of these conversations, involve the fishing community in sustainable harvesting, involve the forestry workers in what is sustainable forestry, involve mining workers and mineral communities in how we move forward, and empower them instead of making them feel subject to global forces that are taking away their living while the global forces figure out how to make billions of dollars in a new area. It's that idea that the world is moving on and leaving me behind in this challenged little backwards looking pocket. It's no, make sure that I feel that for me and my family, even though the world is changing, you're thinking about, as leaders, as politicians, as business people, you're thinking about my place in this world and how I'm going to continue to be able to feed my family, contribute to my community, and grow my country. That is, I think, the thing that is missing an awful lot from some of the environmental rhetoric, certainly some of the political rhetoric, some of the technological rhetoric, as robots replace or automation replaces assembly line jobs. What are we saying to those folks and those communities that are seeing the changes going on around us and really anxious about the future? And that's what we come down to. One of the challenges around politics these days is that populism has easy answers for those people. Let's work backwards and make things great again the way they used to be. Well, that actually isn't a real solution. You're playing King Canute, holding back the tide. Well, you can't do that. Instead, what we're trying to do in Canada, and it works on a technological basis with AI, but it also very much works in our natural resource economy, where you reassure people that we are helping to shape the future in a way that is going to benefit them, that they are an essential part of building that better track forward, and that they will continue to have good jobs and good livelihoods as we evolve and transform our economies in different ways. And it's that message of, this is going to be tough, but we can be optimistic and forward thinking about it, that is essential as a political message. And it contrasts with the fear-based message or blaming message that we have. But again, because the environment touches us all, it's hard to make an argument to fishers that they need to cut down on their catch when a Russian trawler comes through and scrapes up everything, even though they're trying to resist everything. So there is a need for global leadership that isn't there yet, but I'm seeing especially through leadership of organizations and communities like this one gathered right here, that there is a time and there is an approaching accountability that is going to make it fairer for everyone, that the early adopters and the leaders on this won't be punished for being Boy Scouts when the rest of the world is you know, racing as fast as they can towards making a quick buck and leaving the problem for next generations. That's the challenge of leadership that we all wield right now, and that's something that Canada is certainly going to be a key part of.
Thank you very much. Well, I suspect you and I could continue doing that for some time, but I'm told we have a country to run, so thank you very much, Prime Minister.